I got stuff for you.
Holy moly. I need to get some snakes and release them around my house.
But they love eating people. They love eating kids.
These guys are the scientists of the supernatural, lecturers leaving lessons for inquiring laymen. They are applying the scientific method to a world that baffles science. They are the cryptids of the corn.
Every day that you open your mouth,
I know, right?
I'm more convinced that you're abducted by aliens.
No.
And it just stood up. I mean, it just like kept going and going. And she goes, what the?
These are idiots.
I was laughing reading this because I already knew how you would feel.
Idiot. What part of the story fits your balloon?
Well,
This isn't a UFO. But who else has big black wings and red eyes?
Batman.
Oh, Mothman.
Oh, yeah, Mothman.
Well, everyone, I think we know exactly what it is. So say it all with me. It was the sandhill crane.
Would you try it?
No.
You wouldn't eat it?
No.
Why?
Because they're probably toxic. There'd be a lot of poop in my pants. I've seen a 6-foot alligator go swinging through the air and slam into a tree.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Welcome back to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I am the great and powerful mystery.
And I am Jay. Clone 73.
Oh, it's like, I don't know what that...
I malfunctions from time to time. And
Oh, gosh.
sometimes I give a reset. I don't know what that was. I wasn't ready for that beep, though. It kind of scared me.
Oh, gosh. This one's been asked for a long time. This definitely be a part one of, like, we did with the trains a couple weeks ago, where, you know, they're not going to be consecutive, but they'll be mixed in kind of deal.
Yeah.
But pterodactyls,
No.
or pterosaurs, which is the correct terminology now.
What do you, like for a pterodactyl? They call them pterosaurs?
Pterosaurs is the so pterodactyl used to be the family name. Now it's pterosaurs. Still with the PT at the beginning.
So is there no such thing anymore as a specific pterodactyl?
It's just not a biology term anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
It's more like a movie kid term.
When did that happen?
The 90s?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought pterodactyls was like a regular mainstream
Pterosaurs.
thing. But yeah,
The
now.
saurian lizard.
So pterosaurs basically encompasses the whole flying dinosaur.
No.
Yeah, okay.
We have no proof of flying dinosaurs, only gliding dinosaurs.
Oh, okay.
Pterosaurs are flying reptiles.
So pterodactyls were flying reptiles. Now they're
Yeah.
pterosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know there was
They're not true dinosaurs. They're not dinosaurs. They do have... They're actually really distantly related to dinosaurs.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're not even dinosaurs?
No.
Did not know that.
Very different. Their biology is very different.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not dinosaurs.
So they're just... What were they? Birds?
No. Pterosaurs. So I think this is a big problem
Okay, yeah.
with a lot of people understanding like prehistoric biology.
Yes, me
Is that
included.
there's family groups that quote unquote no longer exist.
Extinct family groups.
Yes.
That we're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like pterosaurs and dinosaurs, like it's like we talked about dinosaurs several times in the show. Dinosaurs are argued. Depends on what biologists or paleontologists you talk to. Dinosaurs are not birds, in my opinion. They're
Okay.
their own group that birds came out of.
Okay.
So dinosaurs are not birds.
Pre-birds.
Yeah, just like, I mean, there was, pseudo-reptile mammals, there was things that had both characteristics that the mammal group came out of, so on and so forth. So like pterosaurs were an offset from an ancient lineage that would become the dinosaurs, but would also become the pterosaurs, monitor lizards, mosasaurs. So like that same family group spawned several different family groups.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So pterosaurs, even though they coexisted with dinosaurs, they were not dinosaurs.
Right. Makes sense.
Just like mammals and fish coexisted with dinosaurs.
So, a synapsid is a mix between basically in between of mammal and reptile.
Yeah, kind of. That's a simplified version.
So, what would be the name of something that's half between mammal and a bird?
A dinosaur.
Okay. And what about bird and reptile?
No, I don't know.
Okay. That's probably still dinosaur, right?
Yeah, that one's definitely dinosaur.
Yeah.
Bird and reptile is dinosaur. Because dinosaurs, in my opinion, and this, shared by several other paleontologists, but other paleontologists will argue differently. The dinosaurs are not reptiles, and dinosaurs are not birds.
Right.
But there are paleontologists that believe dinosaurs are specialized reptiles. And there are paleontologists that believe dinosaurs are specialized birds. There's even a small group of paleontologists that believe birds are reptiles.
But couldn't they be separate? Couldn't they actually just be birds or reptiles? And it's just but it's just so long ago that biology was just so different that we can't
Could
compare.
be any of them. It's an opinion-based thing.
Okay.
I think they're their own family group because they had very unique characteristics. A model just came out for sauropods, the giant guys, the biggest things ever walk on Earth.
Right.
With their respiratory system,
In their neck, right?
it goes their whole from their hips up.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
it was-
the new speculation, yeah.
Yeah, and there's some paleontological, like fossilized evidence that suggests this.
Yeah.
It was such a complex chamber system, but it makes sense for an animal the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah, odd
to
building.
be walking around.
Yeah. I guess I never, like you said, with quote-unquote dinosaur biology, just being a whole separate thing as opposed to what we're used to now.
Yeah, like there's people like specialize in fish and amphibians.
Yeah.
And there's people that specialize in mammals and reptiles. Like they're very different. Mm-hmm. Like herpetology is the one that I don't get. That's a study of reptiles and amphibians.
Okay.
It makes no sense to me.
Because they're not the same at all, really.
They're not really the same at all.
They just kind of take
They
it.
are the two closest related lineages of vertebrate
Yeah.
on land,
Yeah.
but there's still tons and tons and tons of differences between the two lineages.
See, I guess I just never was able or made full circle or made sense of dinosaurs, how we kind of know or knew what they were as far as not being straight up bird, as far as not being a straight up reptile.
I promise you're going to get, for dinosaurs specifically,
In this episode?
no.
Oh, okay.
But sometime relatively soon, you will have all of your dinosaur questions answered in maybe like a 90-part episode.
You're making me
Because
salivate.
dinosaurs are a huge group, right? Thousands of species, from animals the size of skyscrapers to armored tanks to the biggest carnivores to ever walk the earth to animals
Tiny
that fit in your
little-
hand.
Right, yeah.
So to kind of lump them into other existing groups to me is wrong, but also very hard.
Yeah.
Because the biologies that made them supersized and super small, they hit the small, they were tiny vertebrates to animals that aren't 10 feet tall.
Right, yeah.
African elephants could walk underneath their belly and not touch them.
Yeah.
Supersumosaurus, Argentinosaurus, some of the really big guys that they've beaten constantly size estimates.
Right, yeah.
Where we said, 60 tons is the maximum a land animal could be. And then we found one that was 70 tons. And then we found one that was 74 tons. And
Right.
then,
It's always a bigger fish.
what we talk about with animals breaking biology or the laws
Right,
of
yeah.
physics, they
Rewrite.
will figure it out.
Or rewrite the laws of physics.
If there's a benefit to being that big, then they will get that big.
If the niche needs filled, something's gonna fill it.
Like the only reason mammals get as big as biggest thing ever is a mammal, the blue whale.
Yeah.
The only reason they got that big is buoyancy. The respiratory system is very advanced. Don't get me wrong, but as far as compared to what we think of sauropod respiration systems, very different. The only reason they get away from some of the rules is because they're in the water. Mm-hmm. A mammal that big couldn't exist on land, as far as we know right now.
There might be one, a slide rock bolter.
That's not a mammal, is it? I thought we called it a big catfish.
Well, catfish, cat, mammal, fish, not mammal. Slide rock bolter if it's part catfish, part mammal.
Back to pterosaurs.
Okay.
We're going to talk about some modern day pterosaur sightings, and we're going to talk about what could be happening, and if pterosaurs do exist, where are they hiding?
Okay.
Because they're not small animals,
Okay.
especially the ones being seen.
Now, so pterosaurs, just to recap again, is a whole family group, basically.
Yes, a whole lineage.
So they have-
So there were members. We'll talk about it towards the end.
Yeah.
That were the size of tree frogs.
So okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Things
Yeah.
like Quetzalcoatlus and
Giant.
and Hagozalis that were 40-foot, 45-foot wingspans.
Yeah.
T-Rex eating monsters.
Probably thermal vent riders, if you ask me.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so I got a group of modern day, last 100 years, pterosaur sightings, a little collage of them, even one from our home state.
Oh.
And then we're going to talk about pterosaurs some more.
Okay.
All right, so this is the pterodactyl in the 1930s. Needwood Forest in the county of Sheffershire, England. And the English people that listen to the show, they always love it when I try to pronounce Sheffershire. Sheffordshire? I think that was probably the most correct one because the D I wasn't pronouncing the first two times.
We'll find out.
Thank you guys for letting us know.
Yeah.
Was a chase or a royal forest, was given to Henry III's son, Edward Crotchback, the first Earl of Lancaster in 1266. It was owned by the Duchy of Lancaster until it passed on to the possession of Henry V. In the 1770s, Francisco Noel Clark Maudon published a collection of poetry collected from the Nedwood Forest, which contained his own poem by the same name, as regard of one of the most beautiful local poems. And the same would be said about the forest, which it was undeniably enchanting local, filled with magic, mystery, and ancient lore, as the forest was curious, often are. Today, however, things are sadly very different, and most of these ancient woodlands is now tragically gone. Presently, the area is comprised of 20 farms, one of which is a large dairy farm. Less than 500 acres of woodland now remained.
Oh, wow.
So some parts of the forest are still open to the public, including Jackson Bank, a mature mixed 80-acre woodlot, which contains Hoar Cross near Burton upon Turnit, which is owned by the Duchy of Lancaster still.
Still, okay.
And then there is a Bagot Forest near Abydos Bormley, which is claimed by the largest part of the Needwood Forest today, which takes up its name from the Bagot family, seated in the centuries of the Shepherdshire Blithful Hall.
Okay, so a lot of history, a lot of landowners.
This is situated somewhere 9 miles east of Sanford and 5 miles north of Regley. In the home of the Bagot family in the 14th century, while present home of mainly Elizabeth, and the Gothic facade added in the 1820s and designed properly. In 1945, the hall is in neglected state, sold by Garley Bagot. Isn't this great? Do you want more history?
So we're just getting like the history of the land, I guess.
Yeah, so it is in this
The
ancient
owners?
backdrop in the woodland, a historic figure, huge old halls that sometimes depicted strange occurrences back in the summer of 1937. So
Okay.
basically, this is an ancient place full of ancient history.
It's full of mystery, magic, and historical lore. Three
you
of my
go.
favorite things.
Then in the summer of 1937, when the late Alfred Tipton was a young boy, it was during the holiday of 1937 when something strange and monstrous was seen in the small yet eerie area of the local old woodland. According to Tipton, one particular morning, he and 4 of his friends were been playing in the woods, and several hours when they were taking a break, sitting in the warm, dry grass, soaking up the sun. Suddenly, says Tipton, they heard a shrill, shrieking sound that was coming from the trees directly above them. As they craned their necks to look in the upward direction, the 5 pals were horrified at the sight of a large, black beast sitting almost on its haunches in one particular tall and very old-looking tree, and shaking the branch up and down with its claws tightening around it.
Okay.
There was no mere large bird, however. Tipton said it reminded me of the devil himself. I still don't forget things, and this was what I say it looked like. He added that the creature peered down at the 5 of them for a few moments and then suddenly opened its large and shiny wings, which were easily a combination of 20 feet across. It took to the skies in a fashion that could be accurately described as part flying and part gliding, before being forever lost to the sights, perhaps 15 or 20 seconds.
So it took off, but it was gliding away more?
Yeah, so it like flapped at first and then kind of glided,
Okay.
which would be an animal of that size that was flying would do those.
That's all it
kind of
needs to
things.
do, yeah.
It
Okay.
would, condors and stuff like that have notorious trouble taking off.
Yeah.
And once they get up, that's kind of what they do. And that's our largest flying bird we have right now.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Significantly, they were shown various pictures, photographs, and drawings of a wide variety of large winged creatures that either roam our skies today or did in the past. One that Tipton said most resembled the creature that he and his mate saw was a pterosaur. Of course, a pterodactyl is long extinct. However, Tipton had in mind that the beast and the boys encountered were extremely similar to the legendary winged creature of the distant past. Were the boys merely spooked and confused at the sight of a large exotic bird? Or was this an escaped zoo escapee, like a circus escapee animal? Or was this just a pterosaur that they had seen plain as day?
I have my speculations it could have been.
Yeah, do you want to talk about it? That's all I have for that one.
Oh,
I have
okay.
tons more. A bunch of these are like smaller sightings.
UK, right?
Yeah, UK, 1937.
So, well, then it all adds up. It's the right zone. It's the right time period for a sandhill crane.
I hate you. I wasn't expecting.
I didn't think you were.
I wasn't.
No, I don't know. I mean, Pterosaur, shiny wings. Let's go with what?
Shiny wings. So to me, I don't know what that means as far as iridescent.
Right. It could mean
We don't. Yeah,
It could be iridescence. It could be.
We actually have some pigments fossilized from some pterosaurs,
Ooh, okay.
and it definitely seems like they were highly sexually dimorphic.
Oh, all right.
So the best example for that is like peacocks. As
Right,
far as
right.
today, I can point out, female peacocks are brown, one mottled color, and male peacocks are blue and green, with purple stripes,
Iridescence,
crazy
yeah.
colors. But it seems like a lot of these animals, birds, modern day birds, which pterosaurs are not birds. But comparison of large flying animals.
yeah.
A lot of them have their hidden patterns underneath their wings.
Okay.
So when they're flying, they're not sticking out like a sore thumb for predators above them or something like
Right.
that.
They're only for the.
But when they are on the ground and they're doing
Showing
like
off.
a dance, they can
Yeah.
show off. And they may even be in like big eye patterns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what popped in my head, is that it may have been a sexual display, as in like they're blue underneath or whatever. They're shiny blue.
Okay.
Or they're green. It doesn't. He never said a color.
Right.
But-
just shiny.
Shiny. It also could have been wet.
Right.
Let's say it was drying off from the morning dew.
Okay.
Birds like that bask, like they have to. Condors and vultures and stuff like that, they have to dry their wings before they fly because they're so heavy.
Right. That makes sense.
But I don't know. What do you think?
Or it could be like leathery skin that catches the light that makes it look shiny. Wet leathery skin. I mean, you got a lot of options there, so I don't know where to. But he saw 20 feet wingspan. Is that roughly what he said? Or
Yeah.
is it
20 feet in combination.
Okay.
So 10 foot, 10 foot.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And
Which for pterosaurs and even pteratorns, which are an extinct group of large
bird, yeah.
that's not out of the realm of possibility. 20
Absolutely
feet
not.
is right down the middle.
Absolutely not. I'm just trying to gather whether, if he's speculating, is it bigger?
And this is 1937.
Yeah,
The
I
word
was here.
dinosaur was coined about 50 years before this.
Okay.
So we were still thinking dinosaurs at this time look like big lizards.
Yeah.
Like they were still recreating dinosaurs that look like big iguanas and stuff like that. And
So you're-
pterosaurs aren't dinosaurs, but they were digging pterosaurs up with dinosaurs.
Right.
So
one would speculate that they just think they're.
Just keep in mind that he's giving a pretty accurate modern description
Yeah.
of a pterosaur versus this is 100 years ago ish. Mm-hmm. So their idea of what a pterosaur looked like, the pterosaurs weren't unknown,
Right.
but what the idea of a pterosaur looked like was much more reptilian.
Right.
They had big teeth. They almost looked like halfway between like a naked swan and like a monster. A lot of times pterosaurs are described. Even some paleontologists thought they were large, long-necked bats.
Okay.
So the other people drew them as giant mammals that were flying,
Gotcha.
but big ears and everything. They look like giant, long-necked, long-faced bats. So it's time. Pterosaurs didn't look like they did today. But that's a point to be made.
Right. So, I mean, that's just a point that's made toward his credibility, with his story. So, I mean, but that's one in the UK, a good sighting. Last time we talked about these guys, or, we brought them up from time to time, pterosaurs, but modern day sightings, relevant, is usually like West Coast, South America or something like that.
A lot of them West Coast, even the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's a fair shake of them.
Yeah.
I got stories from all around. My next one's from Middletown, Ohio.
Oh, we've been there.
Yeah, so we had our live show.
Yeah.
with Hillbilly Horror Stories.
That's right.
This is a secondhand report given off from the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Organization. The sighting of a flying creature, bird, bat, pterosaur. It's like their category. But yeah, him and a bunch of guys, about 17-year-old, were looking around an old barn one night and they saw a large featherless bird. He said it was standing like a bird would, but it was about 6 foot 4 inches tall. The skin appeared to be like leather. That occurred sometime in the early 1990s. This was the time that it was an undeveloped area, just farm. And they entered the barn, and the flying creature that they referred to as the bird turned, looked at them, moved its head like it was about to screech or something, and then they all ran out. So a very limited report, but
Yeah.
they never said pterosaur. They said large leather bird.
Yeah. And this I think I shared this once before. Reminds me of a bat behavior.
Sure. I'm not rolling out giant bats.
And so here's an example I can relate to this. I think I told you when I was a little kid, we used to have Sunday school at church, and when you were the kids, when you go into church, the adults would all stay in like the big part where they do the normal, and then when all the little kids would go down to a separate room, and they'd usually have a different parent there that kind of runs the kids' version of church that day. So my dad was assigned this particular Sunday. And so we go down, it's like the basement area. It's like this big room set up. It was nice down there, but they had old photos on the wall of like old basketball teams from our school. And my dad sees one. He's like, oh, I wonder if that has the names on the back. So he takes the picture frame and he flips it over. And when he flipped it over, there was names on the back of the frame. So he was focused on the back of the frame when he flipped it over. But what he didn't realize, and all of us kids saw and we screamed immediately, is when he flipped it over, there was a bat on the wall behind the photo. And I still remember it today. It turned its head like almost a 180 and just looked at like everybody. My dad's a foot in front of its face. Doesn't even see it. We all scream and he turns around and looks at us and we all like slid back from the table like to the other side of the room. And we're like, bat! And he turns around and looks at it. And he's like, oh, you Starles, drops the thing down. But the bat did it did like the thing where, like you just said, it turned its head and looked at all of us like it was just getting ready to scream.
They see fine. So here's the misconception with bats is they don't see.
Yeah.
Like they're blind as a bat. Bats see fine, but they use echolocation.
Right, yeah.
So that takes a minute for the signal to get back and them to interpret the signal.
Is there any chance that, oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. So that's probably what it was doing.
So he's looking to see what's over there, sending out signal, getting it back, and then he's going to react.
And his signal was all
we're talking
going.
about sound. It's moving 700-something miles an hour.
Yeah, we probably overrode its senses screaming. But do bats have, this is a memory that's like lost in, but do they have like yellowish eyes? Is there a chance they can have yellow?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, because I distinctly remember seeing yellow eyes when it turned around and looked at us.
Yeah. My next one for you is from California. So yeah, Jonathan Whitecomb's report from a Ropen in Lakewood, California.
Ooh, the Ropen makes his return.
Yeah, and the Ropen's, Indonesia, it's not anywhere near this. I think we did the Ropen on Patreon.
I don't even know if we did a full episode on it.
Because I think Orang Bacte, it came up in the Orang Bacte episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was a side piece to an original.
Red giant bat.
Is that the Ropen?
No, Orang Bacte.
Oh,
orange
okay.
or red giant bat.
Gotcha.
Because do you know where the word orange comes from?
Probably a mix between yellow and red.
No, the word.
Oh. No, I don't know.
Because I finally looked it up. The tree was called an orange. The fruit was named after the tree. It's the orange fruit. And the color was named after the fruit.
Ah, so what did they call that before the fruit?
I think it was brown. It was a type of brown. Which, if orange is brown, you should know that.
Kind of.
You take the color scale, the shading scale, it just turns to brown. It is brown.
Kind of. I mean, you can get brown. You can get brown a lot of ways.
No, okay. Pterosaurs. Feeling certain about eyewitness credibility and about the correct identification that appears more rare than often is the Ropen itself. And this is from Phantoms and Monsters. When I interviewed the person, yesterday I read the email from the eyewitness who was seen a flying creature in Lakewood, California. Only one day earlier, there was a subsequent conversation by phone and a person verified her credibility. Details in her description also verify the high probability that it was an American Ropen. And they even have a scientific name for it.
An American Ropen? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rhamphorhynchidae Pterosaurs.
Okay. That's the American Ropen specifically.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Which I always think it's funny. Not funny, but funny when they give scientific names to cryptids and stuff like that.
Yeah, the things that I guess aren't provably real.
Which it's not even that bothers me. Is it a scientific name, like you give, like it's a family name.
Right, yeah.
So how do you know what family it
came
is
from?
Until you have one? Because we talk convergent evolution, animals look like animals all the time. Like crabs are the best example, carcinization.
Yeah, everything turns to crabs.
Yeah, I mean, completely unrelated crustaceans. So, as far as they could be, look identical.
Right, exactly.
At midday in the backyard of her home in Lakewood, a lady first paid little attention to the barking of a nearby dog. She was focused on her computer when she heard a strange noise. She looked up to see a strange winged creature that immediately flew off, startled by the human who had suddenly come out from underneath her gazebo. So she was underneath the gazebo. She walked out, scared the monster away.
Okay.
Monster's probably going for that dog.
That was barking at it?
Yeah. As a creature unfurled its massive wings, lady surprised or made a loud. She was surprised by the loud noise it made. It was like a heavy fabric.
Oh, okay.
And I know exactly the noise. Like when we let down the sides of the tent at the fair.
Yeah.
Like that's a heavy, like a super heavy fabric.
Right.
When
it
unfurls,
unrolls out.
It does make a really unique noise.
Okay.
But yeah, the long-tailed creature flew off the large tree of the neighbor's yard, whereupon the lady ran into her house and to tell her husband. The two of them then drove around the neighborhood, camera in hand, searching for what the lady later referred to as the dragon pterodactyl.
Okay. So it had a long tail. That's significant.
This Ropen had a wingspan of estimated of 5 to 6 feet, was perched on top of a storm drain in Lakewood, California.
Okay.
So yeah, long tail. And some pterosaurs did have super long tails. Some had nubby tails. Some had almost no tail.
No tail at all, yeah.
So, like I said, the pterosaur family group is hundreds of, I believe when I looked it up researching this, it's like 400 species have been identified.
And that's just all through fossil record.
Yeah, and remember everybody, for fossils, it's 1% of 1% of all living species have fossilized.
Which means there's probably a lot more variety.
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Okay.
hundreds of. Yeah, I would be comfortable over their reign, their whole time reign, thousands of species.
Shoot.
I'd be comfortable with that estimate.
Probably still growing.
Tens. But yeah, so this is the first time I've seen it called a Ropen here in the U.S.
Okay.
The Ropen will get its own episode.
I'll say usually it's only associated with Indonesia, that.
Just a couple
Southeast
countries,
Asia,
a couple forests actually.
Yeah.
Like really a couple forests where the Ropen are so seen. There's been so many expeditions for them.
Yeah.
A couple guys, like there's a video of a Ropen that's really cool that you could say maybe real, maybe not real.
It sounds like a Russian name.
Ropen?
Yeah.
I think it means long tail, I believe.
Okay. It just sounds, it sounds like someone.
Ropen.
Yeah, a Ropen.
Yeah. All right, my next one's for you is in Georgia.
Okay.
On Wednesday, July 18th, 2012, a lady was driving her two sons on Highway 27 in Franklin, Georgia, around 8:15 a.m. when they saw what she called a flying dinosaur. She said, "I was so shocked at what I had seen, I started yelling at my sons to look up, look up. I asked my oldest, 'Do you see what I'm seeing?' And he goes, 'Wow.'" The lady's son told his mother that it looked like a pterodactyl. I asked the lady some questions, and this is the Q&A form, so it's going to be asked, and this is from Lon's Phantoms and Monsters again.
Gotcha.
Did it have a tail? Yes, it had a tail, a very long one, she said. Was the creature flapping its wings or just gliding? She said, it was just gliding across the road. And he added the in because she just said it's just gliding across road.
Oh, okay.
About how high off the ground was the creature? And she says, I really can't say how high, but how it was long enough that I knew it wasn't a big bird. But yeah.
Okay. Well, typically big birds don't have long tails. Some do, but typically I can't think of one.
I do have another one in Georgia. But before we get to that, I think it's time for a Flavors of the Forest ad.
Good. I'm hungry.
You're hungry?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's play one of our new ads. Jay, I maybe hooked up a cable to Bob the Giant Mushroom and maybe plugged it into my brain. And I was getting a very strong message.
What did he say?
He said, Flavors of the Forest is coming out with a new flavor.
A new flavor?
Lion's mane mushroom. The ultimate thing to meld mushroom and the human brain together.
Wow.
It's coming. Bob the Giant Mushroom was telling me. Everybody has to try this new flavor. Flavors of the Forest, Bigfoot Breath, Lion's Mane.
So this is something another food addition enhancer I can add to my food?
Lion's mane, the superfood, the reproductive organ of the lion's mane mushroom, coming to Flavors of the Forest. Where can they be on the lookout for these new additions?
You can find this new additional flavor at flavorsforest.com/corn.
Be on the lookout for Bob and his kin. And we're back. Wasn't that great?
Still on the lookout.
Still on the lookout. Now there's a new flavor coming out. Everybody pay attention.
Exciting.
But yeah, another sighting near Wilder, Georgia.
Okay.
It was about a year and a half ago, maybe a little more. I saw what I believe to be the same animal from directly below, which she's talking on the same thread as the previous story.
Gotcha. Okay.
The tail was really riveting to me. You could see its shape at the end of it. It kind of was like the shape of a spade. It stuck right out.
Okay.
Which we'll talk about. That's very important.
Yep.
And then there was another one from the same area that's much older. There was two flying creatures that might have been a rare species, normally nocturnal but temporarily displaced by a storm, perhaps a pair of flying in the daylight out of necessity. If they're nocturnal, Georgia certainly has many places for these creatures to hide. Basically, another lady was just saying that she'd seen 2 flying creatures similar. She thinks there's something native that is super rare,
Okay.
and that's all she's saying.
That she thinks it's negative?
Native.
Oh, native. Okay, makes all more sense.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about those? So Georgia has a raptor.
Georgia raptor. Well, I mean,
These are smaller than some of the other ones we've talked about so far.
Significance would be both had tail.
All 3 encounters had.
Oh yeah, because the one was 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know she didn't go into a lot of detail, but they were kind of all building off the same post.
Yes.
Like saying, yeah, I seen the same kind of thing in the same kind of area, and here's what
Yeah. I think very significant to mention the tail, and like you said earlier, the spade shaped to it.
So there are species of pterosaur that have long tails with no spade.
Okay.
There are species that have that spade.
Okay.
Pterosaurs, there's some really good pressed fossils where you get the wing outlines and you get some of their fluff. They had fluff. They weren't these big scaly beasts. They had, like, as far as we know, we don't know much about their chicks, but their chests, they had some basic, like almost like a down. It's their own kind of version of it. So it was not feathers. It was like we talked about convergent evolution.
Fluff.
Where they get their own version of that stuff.
Like silky chickens?
Like silky chickens. But yeah.
What?
No, it's just... So yeah, it's just interesting that they said they had a tail spade.
Did I ruin something?
No. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not mad at all. What?
I was just going to let it be dead for a second. I couldn't hold in the laughter.
But yeah, so Georgia had a couple of them. Like I said, this is only part 1 because I think there's so much here to do. Like there's a Daytona Beach in Florida has had hundreds of sightings of them.
Ooh, you know what's significant about Daytona Beach in Florida, right?
Yes, I do. Save it.
I will.
You want another one?
Yeah.
This is from the Pine Bearings Institute.
Ooh.
Adam Benedict.
Pine Bearings and...
Institute. It's just the name of the website.
Oh,
Remember
darn it.
Adam Benedict's books and stuff like that.
Right.
Pine Bearing Institute. But he has all kinds of cool encounters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Daryl Ashley, age 68, witness 1. Location of sighting, Lansing, Illinois. Summer of 1968, to be exact. Here's what the message says. I was 17 in 1968 when I was going to my neighbor's house in the late spring or early summer. The sky was clear and only had a few clouds across it. I got outside and I noticed a peculiar silent and calm. Not even one bird was making any noise. As I got to the sidewalk and before I turned right to go next door, I caught the glimpse of something just behind me in the eastern sky. I turned and looked, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was a pterodactyl flying overhead. It was about the size of a Piper Cub airplane. Large. Small airplane, large animal.
Bird. Yeah.
It had a grayish blue body with bat-like wings and had a mixture of reddish-brown areas on it. As I watched this thing fly over 100 to 150 feet from me, it was just 30 feet or so over the trees. I tried desperately to get someone's attention to witness this thing with me, but no one, no cars, no one on the street, not even the person in sight from me, what I could see out the window. I decided to yell it to see if I could get its attention. I yelled, and it turned its head slightly as if trying to pick up on the sound it was coming from, but it turned its head away from me, and I yelled the second time even louder, and it turned back to its right, looked directly at me, and opened its mouth.
Okay.
Now keep in mind what you said earlier.
Yeah. Echolocation.
I saw it had rows of teeth and the 4-foot beak, and they put beak in quotes.
Okay.
Not quite a beak, but a beak.
Snout, more like it.
And it didn't make any other sound. Then I thought I was having to hide under a car or something, and the thing just kept its course, turned its head back straight, and flew due west. Never came after me. Its head was a brownish red, and it had a knob or a cone part. It looked to be about 2 foot long, and it being a brighter red than the rest of the body.
Its head.
The cone part.
Okay.
The back of the head that was a cone.
Okay.
You see some pterosaurs, they have that, like, a long...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like a turkey snoot, but going backwards.
Yeah. It's a crest, a bone crest.
Okay.
It made a slow, continuous stroke, like its skin-like membrane wings, and the claws are its quote-unquote hand-type bony fingers in the middle.
Hand type?
Yeah, because they only have 3 fingers in the middle, so it's not really a hand.
I understand. I think, okay.
Bats and pterosaurs both had that.
Okay, I was gonna say you're very much describing a bat.
Birds have it too. It's less
less
exaggerated.
significant. Okay.
Because they just have the one little finger that sticks out depending on the bird. Some birds have two.
Yeah.
But it's happened several times.
Oh yeah, we talked about one of those birds on the stink bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freaky Fauna Friday. Check it
It
out.
had feet that were tucked under its body in a long tail that had a dark, quote unquote, knot at the end of it. Kind of like the spade shape.
Okay.
I watched it all, the whole duration, for about a minute, maybe 90 seconds from beginning, before it just went out of sight over the western horizon. I only told my friend I want to see it one more time in my life. Later in life, I've told more than a few, not caring what anybody thought. Now I've read stories of other people seeing these things. Now I don't feel crazy. What truly amazed me about this sighting is that it was in Lansing, Illinois, just one block off a major road, Torrance Avenue, and only a few blocks south of the interstate I-394, and not in some off-the-beat trail far off civilization forest park and considered a wilderness area. Of other oddities that happened in my life, this by far is the strangest.
Interesting. Okay.
And I have 3 short ones from the Pine Barrens Institute.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's cover this one. So again, he sees this pterosaur flying.
With the bright red.
Didn't give very, very good details on the colors.
Yeah.
Not a good definition of the size is huge,
Right.
which is odd for the long-tailed pterosaurs.
Oh, okay.
They're normally the smaller ones.
Okay.
And that comes to flight because we think they use that tail knob to help them steer and stuff like that.
Okay. Like a rudder on a ship.
Yeah, or the tail on a plane.
Or
Literally,
probably more better example. I'm an idiot.
it's the same thing.
Yeah, just like ships use.
But on the bigger pterosaurs, they seem to get rid of that because they just kind of muscled through it.
Like the Quetzalcoatlus.
Yeah, they're really big guys.
Yeah.
The next big one's like Hexalnaulus or something like that. It's
Okay.
another really big pterosaur. But even true pterosaur, like the pterodactyl from
Right.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it didn't have a tail, right?
Yeah, it had a short, stubby one.
Yeah.
And they were big enough to they're man-sized.
Right.
They weigh a lot less, but they're man-sized. So this thing's a Piper Cub airplane, which has a 44-foot wingspan, I believe.
It's pretty big.
But he didn't say if it's the wingspan, roughly the size.
Right.
It's just a massive animal. So
Right.
that's just something odd that sticks out to me.
With the tail.
Doesn't matter. I mean,
Are there-
like I said, we don't have all the species.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
this is, they've been gone for 65 million years.
It's kind of
from the fossil record.
A little bit.
But other animals have done it, but we'll talk about that.
Are there any bat species with tails?
Now, I don't want to talk about that at all.
Just move on.
We'll just no. So no, really, there are some long-tailed bats. They're called long-tailed bats.
Okay.
Nothing that dramatic though. I mean, when you're talking about nothing like a rat tail hanging down.
Right,
Nothing like
yeah.
that.
Because trying to picture it, I can't.
But when pterosaurs, as far as we know, they were really sight and smell. They had a big olfactory zone. They had big eyes. They did have ears, but they weren't as far as we know, external ears, more like reptilian ears or bird ears.
There's like holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good chambers to collecting. That's what the outside of your ears for, is to funnel sound inside.
Into it, yep.
And that's why they have such a dramatic one, is location.
Right, yeah.
Now, he just didn't say anything about this thing having an ear. Who knows what the cone may have been used for. But he yelled, when he yelled again, louder, it looked harder at him, opened its mouth, didn't make a sound he could hear.
Yeah.
And he kept calling it a beak in quotes. I don't know exactly. I can't ask the guy what he meant.
Yeah.
But he never called it a beak. Every time he used the word beak, he used it in quotes. So I don't know if it was more fleshy, not like an actual bird's beak. 'Cause pterosaurs had both.
Want me to drop some knowledge on you about what's going on here, biologically wise?
Huh.
So that thing on the top of its head, what that function was, scientists still are trying to figure out. It was a sound resonance device on its head. Not device as in technology, just part of its biology. And it would resonate to sounds, and it could open its mouth and direct the direction the sound's coming from, and then that thing would just vibrate like crazy, so it knew where all this stuff was coming from.
It's like an ear.
It's an ear tuning device, yeah. That's why it didn't make sound. The mouth was...
I don't think it was. I can't remember.
The mouth was catching the sound like an ear.
It's like Pterosaurs, the dinosaur with the long
Thing on its head,
the
yeah.
pompadour. Those are resonating chambers.
See?
because they're hollow.
Ah.
You can actually listen to Freaky Fauna Friday dinosaur sounds. We played some of them where they recreated it and just blew air through them. You weren't there.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that one.
Blew air through them. And yeah, I don't know if pterosaurs, I don't think they were hollow like that. I think a lot of people think they were more like antler. Because there was definitely a sexual dimorphism in most pterosaurs.
Yeah.
As in the head crest was not nearly as dramatic as it was in the females versus the males. So the males had much larger, much more dramatic ones.
That just means, it's tales old time. Males are better listeners.
Tapajara is one of the ones that had the craziest looking ones.
Yeah. Males probably.
Yeah.
See, they're just good listeners. That's all it is.
But I don't know. It's obviously we're making some bat connections.
A little bit, yeah. Well, it's a mix, kind of.
Yeah, there's some bat qualities.
Yeah.
I have 3 more little ones for you, and
right.
then we'll get into some
What?
talking about stuff.
Yeah.
This is another one from the Pine Barrens. So this is all from the state of Wisconsin.
Wow, okay.
This sighting took place in the late 1970s, early 1980s, in an unnamed Wisconsin city. The witness reports that one day they were doing farm work with his sister. He noticed a strange creature flying in the sky above them. The witness claimed that he was driving a tractor to move some crates of vegetables. The creature then, resembling something from the age of dinosaurs, flew overhead. The creature possessed a long pointed head, oddly curved wings, a dark body color, a long tail with a ball-like shape at the end of it,
Okay.
which is also common for some pterosaurs.
Yeah.
The witness tried explaining to his siblings what he saw. They did not believe him. The creature was never seen again.
Go figure. How convenient.
Sighting number 2. This is in a place in a city called Brookfield in September of 1988. The witness report that they were staying on Elmbrook Memorial Hospital awaiting for the birth of his first child. He caught the sight of a giant unknown flying creature through the hospital window. The witness claimed that the creature's wingspan was easily 15 feet. Featherless, leather, I can never say it.
Leathery.
Skin.
Yeah.
A long beak and a thin head with a long crest off the back of it. The creature, which was as big as a pickup truck, flew towards the window before darting back above the hospital and out of sight. The man, unable to compare it to any living bird, just said it looked like a parrot or pterodactyl.
Well, that one's easy, though, what that is. You know what that one is, right?
The stork delivering the baby.
Exactly. He said it himself, just waiting for my baby to show up.
Getting onto the roof to deliver the baby. Here you go.
And then 5 minutes after that, his baby showed up.
Odd consequences.
Ain't it?
Ain't it odd?
Yeah, I need you to do it.
No, so why do you think it was flying right at the hospital?
Probably saw its reflection.
That's what I was thinking too. If it's real, if
And
the
it was
story's
like,
real,
and then it was like, oh, crap.
I'm gonna fight that one.
Yeah, there's our internal pterodactyl or pterosaur thoughts.
They always talk like a villain to me,
They
like an
are.
old time.
Yeah.
Hey, see,
Yeah, see, I see you over there in the building. Yeah. You're in my territory, kid.
the third sighting took place in the city of Edgington in 1996. The witness reports that he was 8 years old and living in his farm. He caught sight of an odd-looking creature flying in the sky above him. The witness describes the creature as being very large. It did not resemble a bird at all. The wings were absolutely gigantic. The body was very streamlined. The color was brownish tan. The creature possessed a long tail with a bulb on the end of it. The witness was unable to watch the witness was able to watch the creature for nearly 3 minutes before it completely vanished from view.
Well, so all 3 were in Wisconsin. All 3 having like the similar. Or,
Like I said, there's literally thousands of sightings.
ain't that nuts?
I just picked some. I mean, I've only did 8, I think, and we've already been talking for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what does that tell you? I mean,
we're going to do a whole episode. Probably part 2 on this movie just called Daytona Beach.
okay.
Because for whatever reason, we can talk about it here in a second.
We'll call it the Daytona 500 sightings of pterosaurs.
Do 500 sightings. Maybe that'll be our first 24-hour.
Gosh. No, I think I'd rather jump
Another pterosaur.
Yeah. Where's my bathtub and my
Toaster. All right. So what's happening?
Yeah.
Before we just talk about the elephant in the room, obviously, I have a lot of other things that could be happening.
All right.
Obviously, my last one is living pterosaurs.
Well, before let's just reestablish we had the one in UK, Georgia. We got Wisconsin that just happened.
Illinois and Ohio.
Illinois and Ohio. Okay.
California.
California. So we pretty much spanned the whole U.S.
And
Pretty much.
I did the historic one because I thought it was funny that,
The UK one?
yeah.
Yeah.
The first 8 paragraphs are just who owned the forest.
Gotcha, yeah.
Because it was from a UK book, and that's how they write everything.
That's a lot.
Yeah, going back to 1288, I think.
Well, I
it
guess
was.
when there's so much history there, you got to kind of tell it
There's
all.
so much history here. We just don't care.
Well, history is what's written down.
The mound builders.
Yeah, we erased all that.
They wrote it down on the ground
And we erased it. So
with bulldozers in 1908.
exactly.
The state of Ohio.
Look it up.
It happened. The state of Ohio did do that.
But yes, go on. Sorry.
Okay. First one I have is birds being mis-ID'd.
Okay. Sandhill cranes.
Stop playing with your chair.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm in that
Sandhill
thinking.
cranes wasn't even on my list. That's funny that you said that, though. Blue herons.
Was on your
I'm
list?
going to tell you a story. Okay. This is a story that happened to my sister, Raina. I don't know if she's listening, but it's funny. We were in our little John boat, me, Luke, and Raina. So that's my brother and my sister. And she was like, there's a pterodactyl flying around. There's a pterodactyl. There's a pterodactyl. There's a pterodactyl. Screaming it. And we finally, me and Luke figured out what she's talking about. It's a blue heron. And she didn't have her glasses on. So the two legs, they throw their legs behind them.
Look
They
like a
have the
tail?
foot. Well, they have a long, it looks like a long, skinny tail with a knob on the end.
Yeah, with their feet.
How many of these stories? Long, skinny tail with a knob on the end. Big. Several of these were blue. Blue herons. Like
Yeah.
literally, they're bright blue colors. Like they even have feathers off the back of their head.
Yep.
For sexual display. Like a head crest. So I do want to put that out there. I do think some, I'm not saying any of the ones we read today or anything like that. Some of these are just sandhill cranes, blue herons, the large storks, and, you know.
And I can see, like, if you have never seen
If
blue
you've
heron in
never seen a
person-
wood stork,
Yeah.
you do not realize how big they are.
Oh, yeah.
You do not realize they're red and brown.
Yeah.
How many of these were red and brown?
A lot. Yeah.
And they're huge.
Even-
And they make scary noises.
Do they?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard
Remember I
one.
told you about I was peeing and the velociraptor sound came
Yeah.
out behind?
Oh.
That was a wood stork.
Stork, yeah. It's nuts.
And they're really secretive.
Yeah. Same herons, too, like,
Herons are secretive, even though you see them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
out of all the big storks and herons, they're probably the most up in public.
yeah.
But they still don't like being close to things.
Oh, no. Heck no. The only time I've ever seen one was at a very good distance, and you just almost had to sneak
A
up
blue
on.
heron?
Yeah.
You don't see them in the creek all the time?
I do, but
Okay,
it was
okay.
a very good distance away, and there's
I
no
got
way,
you.
by
Yeah,
the
no.
time I get down.
We never got close. I worked
Yeah.
on the rivers and boats. You know, I would see him constantly. Never got
Never
close.
got
to
close,
him.
yep.
There was one that was asleep. We shocked.
Oh,
On
really?
accident. I didn't see him, and he was asleep with his head tucked in.
Oh, no.
And we got close to the bank, and he just scared. We scared the crap out of him, obviously, and he scared
Yeah.
the crap out of us.
Yeah, I bet.
They make odd noises, but the noises, the long beak, the color patterns, they fit. The tail flying behind them, you know, they look odd when they're
Mm-hmm. They do,
going.
yeah.
Not obviously this doesn't account for the leathery wings.
No.
You know, but we talk about it all the time. Is that your brain can lie to you.
For sure.
And so if you have pterosaur in the mind or whatever, you watch Jurassic Park, whatever, and you see something large, unidentified flying,
Yeah.
pterosaur.
Especially if you've never seen like a stork before or heron in person.
Especially like the big ones.
Yeah. If you've never seen, like, I'm sure you've seen pictures of them, but picture them usually aren't of them like flying. And still, a picture doesn't do anything injustice. It's things
Every
seeing something
place
in
I read
motion.
today has them.
Has herons and storks and
Yeah. Including the UK.
cranes and yeah. Oh yeah.
They call them gray herons there, but they're the same species.
Okay.
They look identical.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, so that's my first one. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, obviously, it has to be a possibility because what you literally witnessed it. Your sister,
And she was
seeing
young, obviously.
but still.
Yeah.
She same. I don't think it makes no difference at that whether you're young or old. If you have an idea of what a pterodactyl is, and you see something that looks like it, you're going to say pterodactyl,
pterodactyl.
regardless of age. In my opinion.
Yeah. So I just had to put that out there. I think it happens. I think the more you read, like I said, there's hundreds, if not thousands of these stories of
Okay.
people in the U.S. seeing pterodactyls. And I'm not saying, because there's ones I avoided, like the Texas pterodactyl, which has been seen on telephone poles. Daryl Sims even shared it on our show.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But that thing's absolutely huge. And it's been seen hanging off of telephone poles and like fences and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's, the size of like a couple guys standing on top, huge.
Yeah.
But this is like these ones with the long tail, these little guys, these 4 foot long ones. They're the exact size of herons and cranes.
Yeah.
They're in all the areas herons and cranes are. Herons and cranes are normally pretty secretive,
Very well could be.
and they don't migrate, right? So they're only really flying long distances just short times of the year.
Right, yeah. So
They don't really leave their swamps and wetlands very often.
you'd have to be in the right place, right time to even see one of them.
Yeah. I guess I've never seen a wood stork migration. I've seen sandhill crane migration twice. And I worked out.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're always out there, yeah.
I've only seen sandhill crane migration twice. Wood stork, I don't think I've ever seen them migrate.
Yeah.
I've just seen them end up places. Like they live there.
And who's to say there's not some stork or heron or big bird out there that we still haven't discovered yet?
Or the misidentified one, like the shoebill, Monsters of the Marsh. One of my favorite episodes we've ever done.
Exactly.
Was a shoebill stork, not related to storks or herons, but that similar niche from Africa that we didn't know about. They're here.
Here, and when they fly, they're very much gliders.
They look scary.
Yeah.
They look like a dinosaur coming to get you.
I wish we had one as a pet. We need one for the studio.
My next one for you. Ghost.
Ghosts. I wanted to sit in the silence.
No, we talked about this with some like Bigfoot. Actually, we did this in our Bigfoot episode. That Neanderthal ghost, or this ancient species, that went extinct.
Yeah.
If you want to believe, and I don't believe this, but if you want to believe humans can be ghosts, then why can't prehistoric species be ghosts?
Yeah.
So what if that's what we're seeing? That's why there's no evidence of them. That's why they're seen for just short periods of time. They don't really, as far as the pterosaurs go, there's not a lot of reports of them here in the U.S. attacking people.
Yeah.
Thunderbirds attack people, but they have feathers. Like people see the thunderbirds a lot of
Completely
times.
different.
There's some convoluting between thunderbirds and pterosaurs here in the U.S. for
for sure.
cryptozoologists. But as far as like the one that attacked the boy in Illinois had feathers, bunch of eyewitnesses.
Right.
It was a big bird.
Right.
Like the thunderbirds that were made all the way to West Virginia were birds. They were big feathered animals, So I don't know, this ghost thing. If you want to think that the Earth can hold like resonant energies,
right?
Pterosaurs were on the Earth for a long period of time, around 100 million years. So, yeah, they were here for a while. Why couldn't they? If you want to believe ghosts can stick around,
why can't
they would be a candidate? They made it a long time before they disappeared.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think of that one?
I mean, I agree with you on that. Pretty much what you said. I don't think that I hold any different or have anything to add to it. Any significant differences.
And that's not one I believe in.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Can leave it as a possibility.
Yeah. Forest elementals. By this, I mean nature elementals, wind elementals, and stuff like that. If you want to, and we're going to do an elemental episode, the more I've researched into it, the more I feel my opinions on this stuff changes, right? Yeah.
Right.
You should change and it should grow. I think elementals are more and more real, I guess, in my head.
Yeah.
And I don't think they don't have to be demonic or they don't have to be good. I think it's something that maybe in creation that is just, we see less than 6% of the light spectrum.
Right.
So let's say there's just some other form of life that God made outside of that 6%.
Right.
And we just get to see the reactions that they cause on our part of the environment.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Which is tornadoes or whatever, or windstorms.
Something.
Ice storm, all these things that's just a byproduct of their existence. But the people, depending on which culture you look into elementals, whether it's Native American, African, or the two I really looked at.
Like how they describe them or something? Okay.
They take animals' shapes that kind of signify the powers of their
existence.
The powers of their elements.
Okay.
So like orcas in the northern tribes are very common for water because it's the king of the ocean. Orcas right now in nature are the king of the ocean. They killed
everything
off that was even competing with them.
Right.
They hunt the biggest animals ever on the planet. It doesn't always go as planned, but they signify the power of the ocean.
Right.
So what if some of our wind ones take pterosaurs as their shape? The largest flying animals that we've ever known about, some of the strongest flyers, some of the longest distance flyers.
Yeah.
The animal that truly embodies. And the Avatar, the Airbender, they did this. Every element had an animal associated with it.
Fire, water, earth, and wind.
Yeah, of those, and it depends on the culture, what elements you look at.
Exactly, yep.
But what if that's what's happening here is these elementals, that's just their preferred shape.
Their form at that moment.
Pterosaurs happen to be the strongest flying group to exist on the planet ever. So that's their favorite shape, that's birds got close, but never quite, the Teratorns didn't get big enough and they went extinct pretty quick as far as they popped up.
And maybe what if something just that's too big, it's hard to change into that form. It's just too big.
Well, I just think, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But Quetzalcoatlus, 42-foot
Gigantic.
wingspan. When it was walking on the ground, it's 22-foot tall.
Right. But do we see there's still like reports of them modernly from time to time or no?
Big pterosaurs. Yes, there are very large pterosaurs. That'd be more like the pterosaurs you see in Texas and South America, which are the true giants.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, the UK and Canada has a lot of the 5 to 7 footers.
Gotcha.
But like the closer you get to the equator, we didn't even touch Africa or Asia or
yeah.
Australia. They all have pterosaur sightings.
Or Antarctica.
I don't know of any Antarctic pterosaur sightings. Not saying
Flying
it doesn't
around.
happen, but there's only like 60 people down there.
Yeah, I don't think they'd be flying around the air
Frozen solid.
They'd be gliding, that's for sure.
I don't know. What do you think about the elementals?
I like the idea because I'm with you. I think elementals are a thing. I just don't. I mean, I just do. I believe in them. I believe in them being a thing.
I think I used to think they were all demons or all demonic.
Okay.
I don't think they're all demonic now.
Okay.
In my personal opinion, I think they're part of creation.
Yeah.
That we just don't get privy to.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's some pieces of the equation you just
like the insides of the earth. Like we're told how it works, and I kind of believe more conventional, and you believe whatever you want to believe. And that's fine because we neither of us will be able to prove either one.
Yeah, we'll never know.
But that's something that exists, whatever it is, it exists.
Right.
That we can't see. But we feel the effects of it.
Yep.
Whether it's earthquakes, landslides, whatever.
Tsunamis or volcanic eruptions.
So it's kind of what I think elementals are. They may not be sentient. They may be a background computer program, essentially, of the universe.
Yeah, it could be, like what would you describe that as? Like something running in the background of your computer, like checking for
that little paperclip that hops up.
Yeah, he's a cryptid.
Forest elemental pterosaurs.
Right, yeah, he's a computer elemental.
But yeah, so yay, nay.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like you gotta always conclude that, especially when you're out in nature near big, forests and woods. I had like 2 burps back to back that like hiccuped out. But you around big woods, water, things like that. It just seems to be like elementals are around. They're there. I don't split it, but I think they're there. And so I can't rule this out.
And every culture pretty much has some version of an elemental.
All around the globe.
And
globally. Yeah.
It depends on, what culture, whether they're evil or not.
Maybe they are the globe. Maybe it's old Earth.
Mother Earth, here you go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a mushroom.
Maybe elementals are mushrooms.
Remember we talked about in our episode, mushrooms work with elementals.
What if they're just projections of the conscious projections of the mushroom?
Well, that's
exploring the 3D
That's what
world.
controls the elementals. They ride them around, so you see a mushroom riding a pterosaur.
Yeah.
There's a T-shirt idea for the contest.
Oh, you're getting into your theory that you don't like about dinosaurs being avatars.
These aren't dinosaurs.
So it's so different. Yeah.
Stumped you for a second. Yeah. Stumped you for a second.
Wait a minute. I guess you're right, but they only existed at the same time.
All right. My second to last one's time slips.
Yeah.
I promise we got a big thing coming about time slips.
Oh, yeah. But just check the art for this episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to assume it's the brontosaurus coming out of the time portal.
I hope so now.
Yeah, it better be. Anyways. The time slips, that these are living creatures. Primeval, I brought up several times on the show over the last couple of years, was a TV show just about that.
Right.
Past and future animals. There's these key points on the Earth, you want to call them ley lines, whatever, where there's focused energy, and basically a portal, and an animal can just walk through on accident.
When the stars align.
Obviously, they freak out because there's a T-Rex now in downtown London.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to do. It's a lot.
All of his vegetation's gone.
Yeah.
The world is gray now.
Pterosaurs, that may be happening to them. There's a theory that these portals appear most often above sea level, like they're above the ground.
Right, in the sky.
So that's why we don't get a lot of dinosaurs. We don't get a lot of prehistoric animals using them. But pterosaurs are always flying.
So they can always
So what if they're running into them all the time?
Yeah.
Or more common. I'm telling you, there's thousands of sightings. Out of all the dinosaurian, prehistoric, like these ancient animal cryptids.
Yeah.
These are the guys that are seen the most often.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking, there's hundreds of dinosaur sightings. There are thousands of pterosaur sightings.
Literally. We'll find out when we do the Daytona episode next.
So, I don't know. This is kind of, what do you think of time slips?
I mean, again, just fall back on it. I think they do exist. I think we have examples, not just of pterosaurs, but of other, dinosaurs, I'll put that in quotes, of being spotted, whether it's in Canada or I forget the other areas in Asia and stuff like that with, dinosaurs being seen out in the woods. So there's other examples of it happening or of it possibly happening. So why can't these guys be part of that example as well? Especially if, portals, we're not in the sky enough to see portals opening up. Besides that one that opened up in the sky and swallowed that airplane flight, what was it, MH370? That was basically the same thing.
I just, somebody on Insta sent us 2 days ago, something disappeared into a mountain. I said it looked like a portal to me.
Wow. What do you mean something?
Like a UFO.
Oh, okay.
Like disappearing into a mountain. I don't know what to call it. It was a big ball of light.
Right, yeah.
Which could be, I think it was metal because it was shiny, but the way the sun was catching it just looked like a ball of light.
Right, yep.
But yeah, time slips, I think they're real. I just don't know what they are. But because time
is an illusion.
We'll do it whenever. I think we'll do a whole episode on just gravity and time.
I almost puked.
Because I think there's some really interesting thoughts that I think you could get with, especially with time, with how some people I've heard explain it. It's very fascinating. The arrow of time, which is a way for physics to explain time. As not physical, but
tangible,
a fabric part of the universe.
Measurable? How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
My last one, the one everybody's been waiting for. Pterosaurs just survived into modern day.
Yeah.
Now let's look at mass extinctions we did several weeks ago.
Yep.
So the end of the dinosaurs, the mass extinction for them, as far as mass extinction go, was not as horrible as some of them.
Right.
Like the Silurian, the mass extinction when it rained forever.
Rained fire.
It rained plasma and fire, but also rain.
And earthquakes and volcanoes going off.
It just was, when 98% of everything died.
Yeah.
Everything. Not land animals, not vertebrates.
That's what you call scorched earth.
When insects have a big population drop, it's bad.
They were doing something bad.
Insects do not care. But yeah, so what animals survived the mass extinction of the dinosaurs? It was pretty much the rule of thumb for paleontology is animals smaller than a bread box.
Okay.
What people think of, and this I've been guilty of this a long time ago, is the big pterosaurs, the memorable species of the family. Mm-hmm. You think of Quetzalcoatlus, you think of Tapejara, you think of these absolute giant flying animals. There were plenty of pterosaurs that could fit in your hand.
Right, little tiny guys.
That were the same size as the birds that survived.
Like those little monkeys that can fit in your hand? What are those called?
Slow loris.
The what?
The slow loris.
Okay.
The only venomous mammal.
Really?
Or the only venomous primate, sorry.
Okay.
But they leak their venom out of their armpits and they have to rub it on you. They're weird. Check out Freaky Fauna Friday.
Okay.
Slow loris are weird.
Yeah. All right.
But no, so these animals smaller than a bread box. Mammals, reptiles, fish, all kinds of things survived. Even dinosaurs survived for a little bit after. And you can get into the weeds about our bird dinosaurs and stuff like that. There's fossil evidence that some of the really small dinosaurs survived past the mass extinction, but were quickly outcompeted by mammals.
Okay.
They couldn't compete. Once a lot of the big predators disappeared, mammals like rats and stuff like that, primitive things like that, would just took off and you couldn't keep up. Yeah. And we see that with islands and stuff like that with large birds.
Oh, yeah.
Like rats, they get on an island, they'll kill every bird. Mm-hmm. Like every egg will be eaten. It doesn't matter how good the parent is.
Ugh, rats.
Yeah. Listen to the Giant Rats episode.
No, it's so
this
bad.
is the throwback episode, if you couldn't tell.
Is it?
We've made mention of like 8 other episodes.
Well, we've done so much now.
It's getting there, but either. Mm-hmm. But forever, I'm like, there's no way pterosaurs survived in the modern day. Because, and same with mosasaurs. Mosasaurs, my reason for them is why crocodilians survive so well and turtles survive so well, and why mosasaurs probably didn't after the mass extinction, is metabolism.
So okay.
Not size. There's mosasaurs that were the size of like snakes.
Oh, okay.
5 foot long in the fresh water. Same with crocodiles. Same with turtles.
Little pygmy mosasaur?
Mm-hmm. They live in freshwater like lakes and stuff like that. So they were still big for their environment, just not compared to the 50-foot monster that lived in the ocean.
Yeah.
But they had higher metabolisms. They had controlled body temperatures.
Okay.
So they needed to eat food more regularly. So after the mass extinction, when all these food chains were disrupted, they didn't do so hot. When crocodiles and turtles were like, I'll go sit in a hole for a year and not worry about eating.
Right, yeah. I'll freeze myself.
Yeah,
as long as I can breathe.
I'll just lay here. The crocodiles and alligators do that. Well, they'll be like, if I eat once a good meal every year and a half or a couple smaller meals every year, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And they just breed when they can. When they get abundancy, they'll breed.
Yeah.
So
what a life.
Pterosaurs probably did the same thing, where all the big species were just wiped out. Even if like some individuals survived, we're talking that, it's a horrible mass extinction.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about some of the tiny guys. I'm going to try to say these names. These are the frog-mouthed pterosaurs.
Frog-mouthed pterosaurs, okay.
Yuga arathids. Yuga arathids.
Okay.
But yeah, these are like the tiny, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of them, but they're pretty cool looking.
Okay.
We'd probably keep them as pets. They were completely furred, or their version of furred.
Those look awesome.
But they were very much this weird little thing between like a bat and a bird. They kind of did both niches. In my opinion, they would have been a good candidate to survive through mass extinction.
Okay.
Now, a lot of species, it's called species radiation. So let's say these guys did survive, but the big guys didn't. So why are we still seeing big guys today?
Okay.
Right?
Time slips.
Well, yes, but species radiation, they have the same genetic packages as their cousins. They get 40 foot. They can. Species radiation is when the niches are open, species happen really fast.
And they fill those niches.
So after the environment stabilized, if they did survive, they bounced back and some of their species got big again. So these were the guys, some of these small species had the spade tail. That is why it may have carried into the big ones. This is a vestigial trait.
Yeah.
But they never got back to taking over the planet because by the time they bounced back,
Other
birds and
things
bats were here.
Yeah.
So a lot of the middle niches were already taken. So these stepping stone niches is what it's called to get to those giant apex predators.
Right, gone.
They can't just jump, from being something the size of a frog to being something that's the size of a Piper Cub aircraft.
Yeah, that'd be hurt coming out.
Yeah.
Giving birth.
So they may have had a couple species pop out right after the environment's restabilized.
Right, yep.
And they may have become really rare. Never extinct, never gone.
Just rare.
Super rare. So if that happened, where are they, right? If there's animals that are 30 foot long or 30 foot wingspans flying around, why are we just getting every once in a while sightings of them? And like I said, it's a lot of sightings,
right.
Probably up there with Bigfoot every year, but all across the planet. So let's talk about where are they nesting? I personally believe these are much more like albatrosses.
So nesting in high, like mountainous
islands.
Islands. Okay.
Albatross, I believe, only nest on a couple islands in the world. The whole population of albatrosses.
Did not know
they
this.
Fly several thousand miles without landing. Dang. So this is they're thermal vent gliders.
Ooh,
so these pterosaurs that may have re-evolved into these niches may have done the same thing.
Right.
Where they are, they're fish eaters. A lot of pterosaurs were fish and small animal eaters. So these guys may have specialized where the birds and the mammals couldn't, being in the ocean.
Gotcha.
Gliding over the ocean, chasing schools of massive fish, being in, we talked about, several episodes with the bloop of actually how big the ocean actually is.
Okay. Yeah.
People do not realize if you we cross the ocean all the time. No, you stay in a very narrow shipping lane.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you leave that somewhere, you can disappear
instantly.
Yeah.
Literally.
Cargo ships disappear all the time.
And they're the size of buildings.
Bigger.
Yeah.
So I think people get that. We feel like the Earth's so small, and it's really not. 71% of the surface is water. So I think what may be happening personally is that they're at least nesting on volcanic outcropped islands, like albatrosses and boobies and like all these other large marine birds.
Safe spaces, basically.
Yeah, there's no predators for them. They're fine. Besides a couple of Seahawks and stuff like that, they get to the islands. But for a pterosaur, there's not a lot going to mess with your nest if you're sitting on it.
No, and if you're like 8 foot tall.
If you're a 30 foot wingspan, there's not a lot besides other pterosaurs.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So that's kind of where I have answered that question. Why don't we see them more often? It's because I think 99% of the time they stay over the oceans. I think if you look at a lot of these in Midwest, obviously we had some in Ohio and stuff like that. Birds, which these aren't birds, but I'm making a lot of comparisons with birds, show up out of their flight range all the time, but it's always one rare one. Like my example here in Ohio was we had a neotropical cormorant.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In Logan. Yeah. Which was like 2,400 miles out of its range.
Yeah. And people went nuts over it, didn't they?
Hundreds of birders were there, because it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
I think even Ralph showed up.
Probably. I think Ralph was there in the bushes.
Yeah.
I think he just took it.
His bird, what would you call it? His radar senses was tingling. He flew himself. He was so excited.
So I think that they're staying over the oceans and that every once in a while they fly over continentals, and to go places and stuff like that. A wanderlust is something that happens in a lot of young birds.
Where they're just looking for love?
They'll just kind of go around, and then they leave, or they die, they get shot down. There's tons of stories from the Old West, them shooting thunderbirds and killing them. So if they were seeing these younger, what we're going to assume are males.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's kind of where I have that. And how did they survive? Like we said, the small ones survived, and they species radiation back out into larger individuals.
Yeah.
Because that happens. We've witnessed that happen with cichlids in Africa and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
I think that one's probably the most likely, to be honest.
The most likely?
Yeah.
Not ghost?
No.
No, and that's an opinion of mine that's changed over the last 3 years dramatically.
What, ghosts?
No.
Oh.
Pterosaurs surviving the mass extinction
Gotcha.
event. Mosasaurs, I'm still not sold on. Andy, one of our longtime listeners, me and him have talked about that a lot. I'm just not sold on true mosasaurs. I think I'm still more in the marine crocodile, taking over that niche of being absolutely massive. But I don't know. Who knows? Anything's... Wait. Oh, let me get back to it. Wrong page.
Who knows? Anything could be possible. Oh,
there
it's
we
like
go.
Music to me. It's like a knife through hot butter.
Well, this has been a really long episode. But if you had to put one, what would you pick?
I'm just saying that's not how the saying goes. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with the last one.
That they lived through the mass extinction?
I think they made it. They just are hanging on. They may be extirpated in some areas, but they ain't gone yet.
I just think like the continental stuff, the birds took over.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't compete.
Well,
eagles, for example, raptors, true raptors, as far as eagles and their family, are really good at killing other predators in their niche.
Oh, yeah.
Them and great horned owls murder each other constantly.
Oh, really?
Ospreys and eagles kill each other on sight.
Have you seen that video of it was some eagle or hawk, I don't know, sitting, like I was filming it. It had its nest on like the side of like a building or house, like they built a little bird box. And it's sitting up there in its nest, like perching with its little eggs. And you see this other bird just swoop in and fly and just land in it. And it's just like hopping around, looking around. And this big hawk or eagle, I don't know what it was, is like looking at it like, what are you doing in here? Looking at it, it just kind of sits up. This other bird's like hopping around, doesn't even realize it's there, it looks like. And then this thing just, wham, snatches this little bird up and just holds it down. It's trying to like fly away and it's holding it down with its 1 foot. Like, what are you doing in here? It just, I don't know. It was pretty awesome how fast it was. But yeah, it just destroyed that bird instantly.
Another reason probably why they're not hanging out in the continental shelves very much is food.
Yeah.
Besides the Great Lakes, you got to think if they are fishing, which we think some pterosaurs were floaters, like they'd actually float like waterfowl and like seagulls and stuff like
How
that.
did they take back off though?
With running. The pterosaurs actually could jump and fly.
Oh, okay.
So they had the leg structure to actually kind of hop
Spring
and
like
get
a
back
frog?
up. And that's why like giant birds, like trumpeter swans have trouble. They have to have a long flight way.
Right, yeah.
Pterosaurs could actually kind of hop and get off the ground and start flying.
Just enough to get going.
Yeah.
It's a good adaptation.
Well, when you're 20 foot tall, you have to because
do something. Yeah.
There's no runway big enough.
No.
You cannot run fast enough.
You better live in very specific areas.
The Great Plains, the Salt City,
or on top of a mountain and just jump off.
And you got to crawl back up every time.
Every time, yeah.
But no, I think I'm there with you. I think that people are really seeing pterosaurs. I think they may be a couple species that survived the mass extinction and
just gotta believe sometimes.
Speciated back out.
Just believe there's things out there in the world that are crazier than you can imagine that do exist. So
I think the government's shooting them.
Yes, absolutely. They shoot a lot of things, including their enemies and including people that try to stop their agenda.
I have been the great and powerful Mr. E.
And I have been J Clone 70.
We'll catch you next week, guys.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Remember, the best way to support the show is share it with a friend. But if you are craving more of the J clones
and more from Mr. E,
there's always extra content on Patreon
and our paid member space on cryptidsofthecorn.com.
We'll catch you next time with more exciting, fun, and informative information. Bye.